In Sweden in general, they ask for a CV and a cover letter. However, it's moving more over to only a CV. Personally, me as a recruiter, I don't read the personal letter, because you have to think of that a recruiter only has a couple of seconds in order to screen your resume. So you will have to make sure it's clean and uncluttered and very static with the skills that you have. Of course, you need to show some personality in it. Having a pitch on why you and yeah, what's the best about you, but it should only be a short pitch, so it won't take too much attention from the recruiter, because yeah, they might not have that much time. I would personally say leave out the photo on your resume as well, because it could be used against you. Because a recruiter can be biased. They can look at your photo and think, don't like that person, and then you're out of the process. So I would recommend you to have structured, factful, and clean resume. Yeah, so being invited for an interview in Sweden, I would always check first on what is the company culture. The culture in Sweden is very egalitarian and flat, so you can expect the hiring manager, being, you can say you to that person. You know, it's not like you have to say sir or madam. See it as a friendly person meeting up with you. However, do not forget that it is an interview, but it is, doesn't have to be very formal, but be yourself. And listen to what the questions are. I tend to think that they focus very much on your skill sets. So try to give a good impression on what your skills are, but also who you are as a person, so that you also know if it's a good match with the culture of that company. I would always advise you to learn some Swedish to some extent, even if it's not needed for where you're going to work. You do have a lot of benefits in understanding some Swedish for your social part. If you have skills in an area where Swedish is not needed, then it's perfect. But if you are in an area where Swedish is required, I would still, it depends on the sector and the need of talent in that sector at the moment. You can always apply, but unfortunately Swedish is still very important in Sweden. However, I would personally hope that we would look into the skills that someone bring in, and of course language is also a skill, but it's the whole package that we should look at. If there is a dentist, for example, and they have the skills that we need, but they don't speak Swedish, do we need to deselect that from the selection just because they don't speak Swedish? So if you don't speak Swedish and you do want a job, I would recommend you to still apply. However, don't take it personally, or do not get disappointed if you don't get a job. Yeah. Well, I would say don't bet on one horse. You should be proactive in your job search. I mentioned earlier that LinkedIn is a good source, but maybe it's not the only source. It's very important that you try to socialize with Swedes. Some people say they're not very social, but yes, go out and interact with your local network. Get a membership in a gym club or in a club. Meet and greet with people, because they can also help you. I don't know a percentage, but I know that there's a lot of jobs not even being visible by job boards. They are being given through networks. you can subscribe to many job hunters. Like send your resume to me and reach out to many talent houses that are working for talents like you, and they have also a huge network in where they can help you. So look around, reach out to sources where you feel comfortable, and be proactive. Well, software engineers in general are needed and wanted on the Swedish market at the moment. There are a lot of companies that do reach out to international talents in that sector. However, software engineering is very broad, so depending on what software engineering that you do, what languages and what your package that you bring, that depends on if you can secure a job or not. I would advise to reach out to the bigger companies with the bigger names, because they have the certification with the migration service in order to apply for the working visa. If you're a non-EU member, they usually also work with relocation companies, so they will be able to some extent and also help with the relocation package. However, hard for me to say, that everyone does it, but there are companies out there that does provide you with the whole package. Yes. So, as a non-EU member studying in Sweden, it doesn't matter if you're from Africa or from any other country, you are allowed to stay after your graduation and having reached a certain credential for 1 year to search for a job. If you secure a job, that employer, when your visa is being expired, needs to apply for a working visa for you. However, studying in Sweden, reaching certain credentials, depending on what area you have been studying in, it might be the way for you to get a job in Sweden. Yes. Okay, so I think in this case that the company has chosen Clockwork to do all the administration. So basically, the employee is not hired by the construction company, but they're hired by an agency. So the job agency takes the full responsibility in the employment of a candidate. So a lot of companies can choose this way in hiring staff. So they either hire directly to their own companies, but a lot of companies, for example, within the construction area, they might not have the capacity to do all the administration and the payroll, so they choose to work via an agency, and the agency takes the full responsibility. So you're actually hired by a job agency, get paid by them, and you have a contract with them, and then they source you out to a company for a specific assignment. There's a lot of job agencies that does that, and that's in order to ease it up for employers, that they don't have the employment on their payroll, employees on their payroll. So in this case, the agency takes full responsibilities for an employment and all the contract management and the payroll.
What's the difference of hired by the company and hired by the agent?
So it's basically not a different for you as an employee to be hired by a job agency or a company themselves, because the company that you are assigned to, that's where you work and that's where you belong, sort of. But all the administration part and the payroll part is then being taken care of by a job agency. It's called bemanning in Swedish, and it's a usual structure in order to hire staff. So the question is, you have a 100% match for a job you applied for, but you don't get selected or even invited for an interview. I hear this very often, unfortunately. There are a lot of applicants for each job, and there are a lot of 100% matches for the jobs. So yeah, it's a bit of a lottery to be one of the ones to be selected. It depends on how you apply for the job. Do you apply directly, or are you maybe going through talent sources like me, for example? I would be able then to see your added value, see your skills, and promote that with a company, because I would be the source into the job. So that's one option. Another option would be make sure you have a clear and structured and uncluttered resume. Remove obstacles that might be in the way of not being selected for a job, even if you have the right skills. For example, take away your photo, take away where you're located, for example, date of birth, nationality, because these are usually not applicable for the job that you're going to do. But if you have it on your resume, there might be a biased recruiter that does think like, no, someone from abroad, don't know what to do, don't know what skills they bring, no, not going to select it. So never take anything personally. But yeah, it is it's a process that a recruiter needs to go through, and recruiters will also do mistakes and maybe miss out. But if you make sure that you have a structured resume with the skill sets, and remove the obstacles that could take away the attention of what your skills are, then you've done your best in order to try. And if you're not selected, unfortunately, there are competition out there, and do never take anything personally.